am thrilled to be able to be here today. But what sets us apart, as the people of God, I believe that something that is so unique about who you are, who we are as the family of God, is that we're contagious. Meaning this, when we enter the atmosphere changes. When you enter a room, it changes. It's not that it's imposing its direction or its way on me, but no. I represent and I bring the kingdom of heaven. You see, the resources of heaven. For the kingdom of God abides and rules over my life. Because I have chosen for Jesus to be my king. There is something about that he says, I have chosen to make you my dwelling place. He doesn't dwell in buildings made by men, but he says, I have chosen to make my dwelling place in you. Therefore, where we go, where you go, you bring the resources of heaven with you, the atmosphere of heaven with you. So as enjoyers, our lives need to be contagious. That means when people just come around you, they're just like, there is something so unique, so wonderful, so intriguing about you. But I believe that there is a characteristic, more than a characteristic, even a commodity that is ours, of the kingdom of heaven that the world is looking for. I believe that there's a commodity that you could invest in that would set your life apart from all others. There's a resource and a commodity that people are looking for, longing for, wanting. What is it? What commodity could we invest our lives in that I think the world wants more than anything else? I believe that's peace. See, I don't want you to just live your life by chance. I don't want you to just allow your day to happen. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. No, what I want you to do is be men and women of intention. I want you to begin to set your priorities straight. I want you to begin to bring order to your life. But imagine with me, go with me there, what would happen if in the priorities of your life you preceded that with the peace of God? What would it feel like for your life that in all of your relationships you preceded that with his peace? What about with your finances? What if you began to precede that with his peace? You see, rather than feeling forced, rather than feeling manipulated, you've got this confidence. You've got this knowing. There's an assurance. I've got his peace. American Express has a tagline. It says this: don't leave home without it. I'm telling you, don't leave home without his peace. I'm telling you, don't leave home without his love. Otherwise, you're going to go into this world trying to extract and find something that it cannot offer. But when you know his peace, when you know how fully loved you are, now you become the gift. Now you are the one that changes the atmosphere. Now you come and you bring the resources of heaven into this earth. Isn't that good? So today we're going to talk about 5 things. We're going to talk about having peace in 5 areas of our lives. Say number 1, peace with God. Peace with yourself. Peace with others. Peace with your story and peace with your season. Is that all right? Because listen to me. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is not the absence of strife or the absence of lack, but rather peace is the presence of someone. Jesus, who is my Prince of Peace. So in number 1, because of Jesus, I have peace with God. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6 says this: tell God what you need. Tell him all about what you need. And then it says, and then don't worry about it. I mean, let your concerns, let your cares be known unto God. And then it says, and don't worry about it. Verse 7 then goes on and says, then you will experience God's peace. Everyone say experience. This isn't just a knowing or a mental assent or an understanding, but to experience. Now that becomes my reality. Once you've had an experience, no one can take it from you. See, I'm not debating theology with you, but rather I'm saying there is an intimacy of relationship with God himself found through Jesus where you can abide in his peace. Because Jesus says, I want to be your prince. And when I'm your prince, there is always peace. Because in this world, it says in John chapter 16 and verse 13, it says this. Jesus speaking, he says, I've told you all these things about the betrayal, about my death, about my resurrection. I've told you all these things that it's going to happen. But he says, I've told you this so that you may have peace. In this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. Be an enjoyer. Be an enjoyer. And it says, for I have overcome the world. Hey, you guys are funny. You know, the whole thing is, yeah, we're going to have tribulation. We're going to have hardship. But get happy about it. There's an oxymoron right there. But get happy about it. He says, because I've overcome. There is a preferred future for your life. And it's found in the Prince of Peace. Going back to, I don't know where I'm going to go back to. There it is, Philippians 4:7. Verse 7 then says this. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything you can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and your minds as you live in Christ. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be hardship. There's going to be difficulties. But when King Jesus is your Prince of Peace, it's going to guard your heart, which is the seat of the truth of your identity, of your dignity and worth. Only your Father is allowed to tell you who you really are. It's going to guard your mind, your psyche, your psyche. There is going to be peace, and where there's peace, there's confidence. Where there's confidence, there's courage. Where there's courage, you will begin to possess the very promises of God. Where that begins to happen is you begin to experience, say with me, hope. Hope isn't just wishful thinking, but rather it's joyful, confident anticipation that the very promises of God can and will become my reality. Turn to your neighbor and say, I've got peace with God. Do you know how good it really is? Well, let me tell you. Romans chapter 5 and verse 1 says this. For our faith in Jesus transfers God's righteousness to us, and he now declares us flawless in his eyes. You're all like, yeah, it reads good, but I don't know if I really believe that. Goes on and says, this means if I'm flawless in his eyes, if God has actually transferred his righteousness to me, it says this means we can now enjoy. Y'all like that word. We can enjoy true and lasting peace with God, all because of what our Lord Jesus has done. He is the anointed one, and he's done that for you, and he's done that for me. Verse 11 of Romans 5 says this, and even more than that, how does it get any better? Even more than that, it says we overflow with triumphant joy in our newfound relationship of living in harmony, living at peace with God, all because of what Jesus has done. You see, you want to be an enjoyer? Well, then what you need to do is connect yourself with the righteousness of God that is yours through Jesus. That's it. Otherwise, all you're going to do is sing the songs, try to drum up the emotion and the excitement. But when his realities really become yours and you know that the finished work of Jesus is really real and I've experienced it and it's mine, I can't help but get happy. I can't help but be joyful. My life then truly becomes contagious because I have peace with God. He loves me. Then it leads to peace with yourself. You see, no longer am I a disappointment. I lived with that way too long, all my life, trying to achieve, trying to be more than enough. But there was a moment as I just pressed through. I just want to share this with you. It won't make much sense, but we'll see if it does. It's just, it was a new thought anyway, okay. Here's the thought. But this is what happened. I really wanted the love of God to be real. I saw it in people's lives, but I needed it to be my reality. I couldn't live vicariously through somebody else's relationship. I needed it to be real for me. And I became really desperate. And you know what desperate people do? They fast and pray. That's what happened to me. You know why I did that? Because I just wanted God to know how serious I was. All I did is get hungry and angry. That's right. But I got desperate enough, and I'm telling you, I was out laying in the dirt. I was trying to throw ash, something, just because I needed him to know how desperate I was. But it was in a moment, in a suddenly, with God, that he came and began to speak to my heart and has taken me on a journey to know the heart of a father. There is no substitute. And until you hear for yourself the Father's voice, you are my son, you are my daughter in whom I'm well pleased, there is no substitute. And when that became my experience, my knowing, my life has never been the same. Peace with yourself. Because when you have peace with yourself, you see, we have been our own worst enemy. We have been so critical, so hard, so judgmental on ourselves. I've been meaner to me than I'd ever be to you. But when I allowed my Father to speak to me the truth of who I am, I began to experience peace. No more struggling, no more striving, no more performing. All of a sudden, I labored to enter into a place of rest. Because of the finished work of Jesus, everyone take a deep breath. I have peace with God. And because of that, I have peace with myself. You cannot have peace with others until you've experienced peace with yourself. You cannot give away what you have not yet experienced for you. I mean, we've all experienced disappointments. We've all experienced hurt. We've all been betrayed in some form or another or lied to. And that hurts. I mean, it's deep. But to forgive, to live at peace, in harmony with others, are you kidding me? So let's just skip that and go on to number 4. I'm teasing. Peace with others. My wife and I really want to encourage you that this evening, I think 5:30 evening, Audrey and I, we're going to be preaching together tonight. We're going to have a time. And so if you want to come out, it's going to be fun. Really, really fun. So that's going to be happening tonight. But my wife and I, we've been married 35 years. Isn't that good? You're all in shock because I don't look that old. I understand. We've been married 35 years, and I just want to share with you a very personal story because it happened 17 years into what I would describe as the most loving, dynamic, beautiful marriage I could ever have dreamed of. I mean, she has always just been a beautiful, beautiful gem. And what we loved most about each other was being world changers, loving people, serving God, serving others. And our lives got extremely busy and very active and very, very full. And then there came a day. Hi, what's your name? What do you want to talk about? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Everyone for Mary. She's like, did you really have to draw attention to me? But life is good with Mary, I'm telling you. Everyone needs Mary in your life. All right. Somebody, please take her out for lunch today, all right? Somebody just really bless Mary good. All right. So I'm sharing with you just a real personal story between Audrey and myself. In 17 years of the best marriage imaginable, my bride comes to me with tears in her eyes, and she holds my feet and cries and confesses to having committed adultery, having a sexual affair. See, I had no context for that. Where do you hang this? How do you deal with this? You see, and immediately I had no peace. I was enraged. I was angry, to say the least. That's what was going on inside of my heart and life. And here I am saying that we can have peace with others. What about when you've been lied to, betrayed? You okay with that? You see, I'm so thankful that my Father, He doesn't stand distant from me, waiting for me to get it right, but He comes to me in my brokenness and loves me. You see, God says, I'll involve myself with the consequences of your choices. And He says, and I'll make a way out for you. See, in this extreme pain that we were going through, my pain was so different from hers. I was enraged. I was angry. I made it all about me. How could you do this to me? I became the victim, and I was completely unaware of the pain that she was going through. I was incapable of helping and rescuing her. That's why we need one another. You see, we never stand alone. We stand together. So that when things are going hard, when things are difficult, you don't run from the family of God, you run to the family of God. As parents, I want to make it easy for my children to come home. I don't want to make it difficult, but it's easy. We got some really good help. One of the pastors began to challenge me with Proverbs 25, verse 2, where it says this: it's God's glory to conceal a matter and for a king to discover its understanding. He said, Bob, rather than wanting to shame and to expose your life, the heart of a father is one who covers. And in covering, he says, I'll protect you. In covering, he says, I'll heal you. I'll serve you. I'll never shame you. See, that was, wait a minute. I have all of the evidence that what you did, it was undeserved. Innocent, wrong. Can you hear the arrogance and the pride of my heart? I began to recognize that I had a limited capacity for love. What I love about Enjoy Church is that it's a safe house. It's a safe place. Because they'll cover you, they'll fight for you, they'll stand with you, and they will do everything that they can to promote healing in your heart and life. This is a safe place for you to call home. Audrey and I were in a whole lot of pain, not a lot of peace with each other. And it wasn't but 2 weeks later that we discovered that as a result of the affair, she had become pregnant. In my mind, that changes everything. But all of a sudden, I realized my deficiencies. And what I needed to do was trust this God who loves me. And in trusting him, then I choose to obey even though my feelings aren't there yet. Sometimes, men, we simply just need to do the right thing. I just said that for free. Audrey, will you join me? It was about 4 months after, we found out about the pregnancy that our children began to be a little concerned. I mean, we had left our positions. We had moved from one country to another. And again, we weren't running from anything, but rather going to a place where we would find safety, covering, protection, and help. Audrey's about 4 months pregnant. And one evening after dinner, the kids met us in our bedroom, and they walked in seeing a mom and dad sitting on the floor crying. But before I ever spoke a word, I went to the bed and I pulled a large queen-size blanket from that bed, and I covered Audrey from head to foot. And then I knelt down beside her and wrapped my arms around her and looked deep into my children's eyes. And I said, kids, this is what God does when we make a mistake. He comes to us and he covers us. And he wraps his arms around us and he says, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. With Audrey covered and held in my arms, I began to look into my children's eyes and just speak with confidence, courage, hope, and future. We're a family and we belong. Peace with others. I'd like to show you real quick. I'd love to show you a picture, and it's our family picture. There on the left is my son David and his wife Tessa. There in the middle is my daughter Janelle and her new husband Daniel. They've been married just a year. On the far right is my oldest son Christopher, and then next to him is my son. My son. Oops. My son. You see, out of my hurt, I almost gave up on a dream. I remember asking my pastor, what do I do? He says, Bob, what do you mean, what do you do? He says, there's a baby on your doorstep. What will you do? Will you participate with this fatherless generation, or will you become a father to the fatherless? You've got to grow up. So today, you guys are nice. I'm not that good, but I'm telling you, God is. He really is. And because of that, I get to have peace with others. So I want you to hear, when my son was born, I gave him my name, Robert. Because I don't want him ever to question a day in his life whose boy he is. He's my son, and he belongs. His middle name is Theodore, which means divine gift. He's not an accident. He's not a mistake. Not the result of a sexual affair, but just like my other 3 children, born out of the heart of God and entrusted to me, entrusted to us, we're a family, and we belong. I'd really like you to celebrate, because my son doesn't travel with us much, but he's with us today. And would you celebrate my son, Robert? Yeah. So good. Peace with God, peace with yourself. I get to have peace with others. I remember one day my pastor put his hand on my shoulder and he said, Bob, one day you're going to be thankful for this. I'm like, what are you, stupid? Like, do you know what happened? Yeah, of course he did. But I'm standing here today as one of the most thankful men you will ever meet. Thankful that it happened? No, it was painful. It was hurtful. But I'm telling you, in my experience, in me knowing God today, I'd exchange it for nothing. For me having Robert in my life, I'd exchange it for nothing. You see, this isn't just about me. This isn't about me at all. But this is about his kingdom. This is about my generations. Because of the finished work of Jesus, I've got peace with God. And because of that, I can have peace with my story. This isn't just our story. This is his story. This is the demonstration of the love of God being expressed through someone who'd be willing enough to say, God, I need you. I can't do it on my own. I need that what you say about yourself to be true. Not just for somebody else, but for me. Because I don't know the peace. But Jesus, would you be my prince? That I could find rest for my mind. Peace for my heart. Finally, peace for your season. So when the fullness of preparation meets the fullness of time, it results in the culture or atmosphere where suddenlies can take place. Here at Enjoy Church, you are in a season of suddenlies. But it doesn't come without the fullness of preparation meeting the fullness of time. You may feel as though that you're in a season of waiting. But wait in peace. And it's nothing that is passive, but in your waiting, the acronym for wait is to be one of worship. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. To magnify is to draw near. Get close to God. Secondly, guard your attitude. Intercede. Get involved in other people's lives. And then be sensitive, soft-hearted, teachable. In your season, you may be finding it extremely difficult to hear the voice of God. But I'm telling you, you might just need to quiet yourself and come away. Why would he whisper? Because he makes it difficult for you to hear? No. He whispers because in this season, he wants you to know how close he really is. Hear the whisper of God for your heart today because he wants to bring peace to your own heart and to your life. When the breakthrough comes, it erases the weariness of the previous season. There is a refreshing, and the waiting is worth it all. I shared my picture. I shared my life, my family with you because I don't want you to quit. Your suddenly is just around the corner. And when it happens, you see, during this season, you're like, man, this is taking forever. But then all of a sudden, it's worth it all. Peace with God. Peace with yourself. Peace with others. Peace with your story, with your past, in the season that you are in. Are you with me? I love y'all. I don't want this to end. But our weekend here with you is, I believe, significant. Pastor Mick and I, we chatted just a little bit, earlier this weekend together, and we just talked about, that this is a marked time for Enjoy, but for you personally. But this is the moment where we get to make a decision. I'm going to choose to agree with God's view and opinion of me. I'm not going to live life just on my own. If I want the benefits of the kingdom of heaven, then I must step into the terms of the kingdom of God and begin to experience Jesus as my Prince of Peace. I've been trying it on my own. You see, I'm going to be so tenacious. God, I'm not going to let you go until what you say and what I've heard about you to be true becomes my reality.